What, before you toss that old penny into the change jar, you might be throwing away a fortune. Some ordinary-looking US 1-cent coins hiding in your pocket could actually be worth thousands, even tens of thousands, of dollars. From rare minting errors to secret varieties, these little copper treasures have stunned collectors worldwide. So grab your coin jar, check those dates, and you might just discover a hidden gem worth life-changing money. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more incredible coin discoveries. Have you ever looked at a penny and thought, it's just 1 cent, right? But what if I told you that one small coin from 1984, the Lincoln 1-cent penny, could actually be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars today? Sounds unbelievable, don't it? Well, today we're talking about the 1984 Lincoln penny, a coin that might be hiding in your pocket, your change jar, or maybe that old collection your grandparents left behind. Before we start, tell me, where are you watching from right now? And do you have a 1984 penny lying around? Go check, because by the end of this story, you might be looking at it very differently. The Lincoln penny has a long and iconic history. It first appeared in 1909 to celebrate the centésima birthday of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. It became the first US coin to feature a real person's face, replacing the Indian head cent that had been in circulation before. Over the years, this coin went through design and composition changes, but the spirit of Lincoln remained on its front side, a lasting tribute to one of America's most respected leaders. By 1984, the Lincoln cent had already been circulating for decades, but something interesting was happening. Just a couple of years earlier, in 1982, the US Mint changed the penny's composition from solid copper to a copper-plated zinc core to cut production costs. That means if you pick up a 1984 penny, it's made of 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper plating. You can actually tell the difference if you weigh them. The older solid copper cents weigh about 3.11 grams, while the newer zinc ones are only 2.5 grams. Now, the 1984 penny may seem common. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 8.1 billion of them that year, while the Denver Mint made more than 5.5 billion. That's more than 13 billion pennies combined, so yes, they're everywhere. But there is the twist: among those billions, a few very special coins came out of the presses with something collectors absolutely love, a rare minting error. And that's where things start to get exciting. One of the most famous and valuable varieties from 1984 is the 1984 Lincoln cent double-die obverse. On these coins, if you look closely at Lincoln's ear, you'll see something unusual: a second, faint ear behind the main one. This double ear effect happened because the die that struck the coin shifted slightly between impressions, causing a clear doubling in that area. It's one of the most well-known modern double die varieties, and collectors pay huge premiums for them. So it is what you need to do. Grab a magnifying glass and check any 1984 pennies you find. Focus on Lincoln's ear. If you see what looks like two ears, you might just have a valuable coin. Even in circulated condition, these double-die 1984 pennies can sell for $150 to $250. But in uncirculated grades, the value can skyrocket. Examples graded MS65 or higher by PCGS or NGC have sold for $800, $1,200, and even more depending on condition. One particularly clean example with strong doubling on the ear once sold for over $3,000 at auction. So yes, that 1-cent coin in your pocket could be worth more than a brand new laptop. The doubling on the ear isn't the only thing to look for. Some 1984 pennies also have minor die cracks, plating bubbles, or off-center strikes. While these are less valuable than the major double die, they are still interesting to collectors. Minor die cracks or clashed dies might bring $10 to $30, and off-center strikes can range anywhere from $50 to $200 depending on how dramatic the error is and whether the date is still visible. Now let's talk about condition, because that's everything in the world of coin collecting. The higher the grade, the higher the value. Our 1984 penny that's been in circulation for years might only be worth face value. But if you find a coin that looks brand new, bright red, with a strong luster and sharp detail, it could easily be worth far more. Collectors especially love coins with the original mint shine, no scratches, and no signs of cleaning. If you have one that looks this good, it's worth sending to a grading company like PCGS or NGC to get it authenticated and graded. Imagine for a second how many 1984 pennies passed through people's hands without anyone noticing that tiny extra ear on Lincoln. People used them for bus fare, coffee, and gum, completely unaware that they were spending a small treasure. That's what makes this coin so fascinating. It reminds us that even in ordinary things, there can be hidden value waiting to be discovered. Now, let's go over some real auction records to see how much these coins have sold for. A 1984 double-die obverse penny graded MS67 red by PCGS sold for $3,290 at Heritage Auctions. A noted MS66 red example brought in $1,800. Even lower grade examples like MS64 have sold for around $500. Regular 1984 pennies without any doubling, in top mint state condition, usually sell for about $10 to $20. But if you add in a dramatic error or that double there, the price jumps dramatically. Proof-like coins with strong luster and perfect details can sometimes exceed $2,000 when the right collector is looking for them. So, once again, take a look at your change, your old coin rolls, or maybe that coin jar sitting on your dresser. If you come across a 1984 Lincoln cent, don't overlook it. It could be a rare treasure hiding in plain sight. Check the year, check the condition, and if you see something that looks off, get it checked by a professional. And please, don't clean it. Collectors always prefer original surfaces. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and do you have any 1984 pennies in your collection? You might be surprised to learn how many people have these coins without realizing their potential value. Sometimes, the most extraordinary finds are hidden in the most ordinary places. To sum it all up, most 1984 Lincoln pennies are worth just 1 cent, but the rare double-die obverse version with the extra air can bring hundreds or even thousands of dollars, especially in uncirculated grades. These coins have sold at auctions for as much as $3,000, making them one of the most desirable modern error pennies around. So check your change, because the next valuable penny might already be sitting right in your hand. The 2006 Lincoln penny might look like any other coin in your pocket, but it's part of a long and iconic series that began back in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, this penny became the first USA coin to feature a real historical figure, Abraham Lincoln himself. The design on the front, showing Lincoln's profile, has remained for over a century, making it one of the most recognizable coins in American history. By 2006, the penny was being minted in huge numbers, and the composition was 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating, a change the mint made back in 1982 to reduce costs. The 2006 pennies were struck at both the Philadelphia Mint, with no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, with a mark below the date. The Denver Mint, or 2006 AD, produced over 4 billion pennies that year. So yes, there are a lot of them. But not every coin leaves the mint in perfect condition, and not every one of them is the same. Some have small but important differences, the kind of differences that collectors notice, and that can make a 1-cent coin worth real money. Now, if you have a 2006 AD penny, take a close look at it, really close. You want to look for anything that seems unusual. Start with the obverse side, where Lincoln's face is. Check for doubling on the date, the letters in Liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." A double-die error can increase a coin's value dramatically. Also, look closely at the reverse side, where you see the Lincoln Memorial. Are the letters crisp and even? Are any of them missing or doubled? Are there signs of die cracks or die chips, small raised bumps of metal caused by a worn die? All these small details can make a huge difference. Collectors have discovered several types of interesting errors on 2006 AD Lincoln cents. Some of the most valuable include off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned, die cracks, especially on Lincoln's head or near the memorial, and even plating errors where the copper coating is thin or missing in spots, exposing the zinc core underneath. Off-center strikes that show the full date can sell for anywhere from $50 to $200 depending on how dramatic the error is. A large die crack, sometimes called a cut, can bring $25 to $100. Coins with missing copper plating can fetch between $50 and $150 if they are well preserved, and then there are the high-grade coins, those that were never circulated and still shine like new. These are the ones that can really surprise you. In typical circulated condition, a 2006 AD penny is worth exactly 1 cent. But if you find one in mint state condition, bright red, clean, no scratches, and sharp details, it can be worth several dollars or more. Coins graded MS67 red by PCGS or NGC have sold for $100 to $250, and in some rare cases, even more. One 2006 AD Lincoln penny graded MS68 red sold for nearly $700 at auction, which is incredible for a coin that was minted by the billions. The key is perfection. the fewer marks, the sharper the details, the higher the grade, and the higher the value. What makes this especially exciting is that these coins are modern, they re not ancient rarities. That means they re still out there, in circulation, hiding in coin rolls, or sitting unnoticed in change jars all across America. Anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon a high-grade or error 2006 AD penny without realizing its worth. That's what makes coin collecting so fascinating, the thrill of finding something valuable where you least expect it. Now imagine this, someone picks up a handful of pennies from their car's cup holder and decides to roll them up to take to the bank. In that handful might be a coin worth hundreds of dollars, but without looking closely, they never know. That's how so many of these treasures slip by unnoticed every single day. So before you cash in your coins or spend that loose change, take a moment to look carefully. You never know what might be hiding in plain sight. Let's talk about a few real auction examples to show how serious collectors are about these coins. A 2006 AD Lincoln penny graded MS68 red by PCGS sold for around $690. A noted in MS67 red sold for $250. Even examples in MS66 can sell for $40 to $60 if they have great eye appeal. Error coins, such as a 2006 AD off-center strike with full date visible, sold for $180. A noted example with a large die crack across the obverse sold for $90. Pro-flight coins, though rare for this issue, can sometimes sell for over $100 when well struck with mirror surfaces. All of this just goes to show that even modern coins from the 2000s can hold real collector value. You don't have to be dealing with 19th century coins or silver pieces to find hidden treasures. Sometimes, the key is in the details, the strike, the condition, the errors, and the patience to look carefully. That's why collectors love the Lincoln series so much, even after more than a century, it keeps producing surprises. So ask again, where are you watching from? And have you checked your 2006 AD pennies lately? If not, this might be the perfect time. Go through your coin jar, your old wallets, or even your spare change drawer. You might just spot one that stands out. And remember, don't clean the coin, don't polish it, and don't handle it too much. Keeping it in original condition is the best way to preserve its value. If it looks exceptional, consider having it graded, because that's where you'll really see the payoff. To sum it all up, the 2006 AD Lincoln 1-cent coin is common in most cases, but in perfect mint state or with dramatic errors, it can be worth real money. While circulated coins are worth just 1 cent, uncirculated examples in MS67 or MS68 red have sold between $250 and $700, and rare error coins have fetched up to $200 or more. So next time you see that shiny penny from 2006 with a little day under the date, take a closer look, it might be your lucky find, hiding right there in your own change. The 1987 AD Lincoln penny carries the mint mark, meaning it was struck at the Denver Mint. That year, over 4.5 billion pennies were minted there, and on the surface, it seems like there is nothing rare about it. Billions of coins mean millions still exist today, right? Yes, but in the world of numismatics, or coin collecting, it's not always about how many were made. It's about condition, unique errors, and the story behind the coin. The design of the 1987 AD Lincoln cent continued the same classic style that had been used since 1959. Abraham Lincoln's bust on the front, designed by Victor David Brenner, and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, designed by Frank Gasparo. Even though it's a modern coin, every detail on it connects to American history. Lincoln, the president who ended slavery, became the first real person to appear on a USA coin in 1909. His image has been a symbol of freedom, perseverance, and leadership for over a century. Now, the 1987 AD penny was made from a composition of 97.5% zinc and just 2.5% copper. This zinc core with copper plating had become standard since 1982, when the USA Mint switched from solid bronze to save on production costs. However, that zinc core is also what leads to some fascinating and valuable minting errors. You see, when the thin copper plating doesn't fully cover the zinc core, or if it bubbles or flakes off, collectors call it a plating error. These coins can develop unique textures, spots, or missing copper areas that make them stand out, and when found in good condition, they can sell for impressive amounts. For instance, some 1987 AD pennies have been discovered with striking off-center errors. When a coin isn't perfectly aligned with the dice during minting, part of the design ends up missing, creating a crescent shape. The more off-center the strike, and the more visible the date and mint mark remain, the more valuable the coin becomes. A 1987 Eddie penny that's 10% off center might fetch around $50, while one that's 50% off center with a full date visible could be worth $200 or more. Then there are die cracks and cuts. These occur when the die used to strike the coin develops small breaks or chips. The resulting coins show raised lines or blobs of metal, often on Lincoln's face, near the rim, or around the memorial. Collectors love these imperfections because they read proof of the minting process gone slightly wrong, and they make each coin unique. Depending on size and location, die crack or cut errors on 1987 Eddie pennies can bring anywhere from $25 to $150. But perhaps the most desirable examples of the 1987 Eddie Lincoln penny are those in pristine, uncirculated condition. Mint state, or MS, coins are graded on a scale from 60 to 70 by professional services like PCGS and NGC. A 1987 Eddie penny that has never been handled, still with its full red luster and no scratches, can fetch impressive prices. While most are worth just a few dollars, some graded MS68 red have sold for over $400 at auction. It's also worth mentioning that even though the Denver Mint produced billions of coins, only a small fraction survive in gem condition today. Many were tossed into circulation immediately, used for years, and picked up scratches, nicks, and dull surfaces along the way. Finding a 1987 Eddie penny that still shines like it just came out of the mint is surprisingly difficult, and that's exactly why collectors are willing to pay high prices for them. Now, imagine this. You're rolling coins for the bank one weekend and notice a shiny old penny from 1987 with Eddie under the date. It looks different somehow, brighter, sharper, maybe even a bit special. You decide to set it aside, just in case. Later, you take a closer look under good lighting and notice something odd. Maybe a small raised line on Lincoln's jacket, or the letters in Liberty appear slightly doubled. That's when you realize you might be holding an error coin or a high-grade rarity. It's moments like these that make coin collecting so addictive. Collectors and hobbyists across the country have turned up surprising results with this exact coin. One collector reported finding a 1987 Eddie penny with a double die on the obverse side, where the doubling was clearly visible on the date and the word trust. That penny sold online for over $150. Another 1987 Eddie with a clean off-center strike and full date went for $230 at auction. And a perfectly graded 1987 Eddie MS68 red example, slabbed by PCGS, brought $450, all for a coin that started life as just a penny. If Jube ever thought modern coins can't be valuable, the 1987 Eddie proves otherwise. It's not just older coins like the 1940s wheat pennies that have stories, even relatively new ones like this hold hidden treasures. The beauty of this hobby is that it rewards attention to detail. It rewards curiosity. The more you look, the more you learn, and the more likely you are to find that one special coin that stands out from the rest. So, have you checked your 1987 Eddie pennies yet? If not, grab your coin jar, roll of pennies, or even your old change cup from the car and start looking. Who knows, maybe you're sitting on a rare variety without realizing it. And remember, don't clean your coins. Cleaning can actually damage them and reduce their collector value. Always handle them by the edges and keep them in protective holders if they look promising. Over the years, collectors have discovered dozens of unique error variations from the 1987 Eddie series. From small die cracks to dramatic off-center strikes, these pennies remind us that even in mass production, mistakes happen, and sometimes, those mistakes can make you money. If you ever come across one that looks unusual, it might be worth getting it appraised or even professionally graded. To wrap things up, while most 1987 Eddie Lincoln pennies in circulation are still worth just 1 cent, the story changes completely when you bring in condition, rarity, and error factors. A normal circulated one might buy you nothing more than a gumball, but a mint state or error example can easily sell between $50 and $400, and the finest known specimens have brought in even more at auctions. So before you spend your next handful of pennies, take a closer look, especially if one of them says 1987 Eddie. You never know if you're holding a small piece of hidden treasure that's been waiting decades to be discovered. And if you find one, let us know, where are you watching from, and do you have this coin? It might just be your lucky day. Have you ever thought that a simple penny sitting in your pocket could actually be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars? It might sound unbelievable, but that's the truth about some of the rarest and most unique coins hiding in everyday circulation. Today, we're diving deep into the story of the 1988 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin that, at first glance, seems completely ordinary but could secretly be one of the most valuable pieces of change Jube ever held. Before we jump in, tell me, where are you watching from? And do you have any 1988 pennies lying around? If so, grab them and take a look while you listen, because you might just be sitting on a small fortune without even realizing it. The 1988 Lincoln penny continues a long and proud American legacy that started all the way back in 1909. That was the first year the United States Mint introduced the Lincoln cent, designed by Victor David Brenner, to celebrate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. It became the first USA coin to feature an actual person, and it's been a national symbol ever since. By 1988, the design on the obverse still featured Lincoln's familiar right-facing portrait with the inscriptions "I in God We Trust, Liberty," and the year 1988, while the reverse side still carried Frank Sparrow's iconic Lincoln Memorial design, a tribute introduced in 1959 that marked the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Now, let's talk about the minting details that make the 1988 penny particularly interesting. In 1988, pennies were produced at three different USA mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, with a mint mark; and San Francisco, with an S mark for proof coins. The Philadelphia mint struck over 6.9 billion of these pennies, while Denver produced around 5.2 billion. San Francisco, however, made a much smaller number of proof coins for collectors. With billions made, you might think these coins are too common to be worth much, but as every coin collector knows, it's the small details that create the biggest surprises. And that's exactly what happened with some of the 1988 Lincoln cents. Around 1988, a very specific minting variety appeared that has fascinated collectors ever since, the famous 1988 reverse of 1989 penny. This variety occurred when the mint accidentally used a reverse die intended for 1989 pennies on some 1988 coins. To the naked eye, both reverses look the same, but when you look closely, there is a key difference: the designer's initials, FG, located to the right of the Lincoln Memorial on the back. On the normal 1988 reverse, the letters FG are spaced slightly farther apart, and the G has a sharp serif at its upper end. On the 1988 reverse of 1989 variety, the G is smooth, with no serif. This tiny difference might not sound like much, but it's a huge deal to collectors. The 1988 reverse of 1989 penny is one of those rare transitional varieties that happened when old and new designs overlapped at the mint. These coins are incredibly hard to find in circulation, but when they appear, they can fetch big money. Depending on condition, a 1988 reverse of 1989 penny can be worth anywhere from $50 to $500 in circulated condition, and much more if it's in high mint state. Some of the best examples graded MS65 to MS67 by professional services like PCGS and NGC have sold at auctions for hundreds of dollars. One gem example even reached over $1,000, all because of that subtle design change that most people never noticed. So the next time you see a 1988 penny, grab a magnifying glass and look at those initials on the back. It could be the clue that turns an ordinary coin into a rare collectible. Besides the famous reverse variety, there are also error versions of the 1988 penny that collectors love. Off-center strikes, back cracks, and misaligned dies are among the most popular error types. For instance, an off-center 1988 penny showing about 20% of the design missing can easily bring $75 to $150 if the date and mint mark are still visible. A dramatic off-center strike showing nearly half the blank planchet could sell for over $200. Die cracks, small raised lines caused by a damaged die, can also add value, especially if they are large or create unique shapes. Some 1988 pennies show cracks running through Lincoln's face, coat, or the Lincoln Memorial. These errors can be worth anywhere from $20 to $100, depending on how noticeable they are. Another interesting find is the clipped planchet error, which happens when the blank metal disc wasn't properly cut before striking. These coins have a curved or crescent-shaped edge where metal is missing. A clipped planchet 1988 penny in good condition can sell for $50 to $200 or more. And, of course, high-grade, uncirculated examples, especially those graded red, RD, can also bring strong prices. Let's look at some real-world auction examples to see what these coins have achieved. A 1988 reverse of 1989 Lincoln penny graded MS67 red by PCGS sold for an impressive $750. Another in MS66 red sold for $420. Even circulated examples with leadware can sell for $50 to $100 if the reverse variety is clear. An off-center 1988 Eddie penny with full date visible fetched $175, and a clipped planchette example sold for around $120. Meanwhile, a regular 1988 penny in superb condition, perfectly struck, full red luster, and graded MS68, reached over $300 at auction. What's amazing is that all of these coins originally started as just 1-cent pieces in people's pockets. It really goes to show that in numismatics, it's not about age alone, it's about rarity, condition, and discovery. Modern coins can hold hidden gems, and the 1988 Lincoln cent is a perfect example of that. Now imagine this, you're going through a jar of old coins, maybe something that's been sitting on your kitchen counter for years. You spot a 1988 penny that looks a bit shinier or has a slightly different look on the back. You decide to take a closer look, and suddenly you notice that smooth no serif, the telltale sign of the reverse of 1989. Your 1-cent coin could instantly be worth hundreds of dollars. That's the thrill of the hunt, and the reason collectors all over the world love searching through their change. Every coin has a story, and every year has the potential for something unique. The 1988 penny may not look old or rare at first glance, but it's one of those coins that rewards careful as and patient collectors. So, where are you watching from? And have you ever come across a 1988 penny that looks a bit different? Let us know in the comments. You might just have one of these valuable varieties hiding in plain sight. And remember, if you find a promising one, don't clean it or polish it. Cleaning coins can actually ruin their value by leaving scratches and removing their natural mint luster. Keep it safe, handle it by the edges, and if you think it might be rare, consider sending it for professional grading. To sum it all up, most 1988 Lincoln pennies are still worth face value, 1 cent. But those rare 1988 reverse of 1989 varieties or high-grade red mint state examples can easily be worth anywhere from $50 to over $1,000. It's all about the details, the condition, and the story your coin tells. So next time you're counting pennies, don't rush. You never know when one small coin could hold big value. Have you ever picked up an old penny and wondered if it could actually be worth a fortune? You might think a 1-cent coin isn't worth more than its face value, but the truth is, some of these little copper pieces carry stories and prices that will leave you speechless. Today, we're diving into one of those fascinating finds, the 1961 Eddie Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that seems ordinary until you take a closer look. Because hidden among millions of regular 1961 Eddie pennies are a few rarer coins that can be worth as much as $128,000. Before we go deeper, tell me, where are you watching from? I love seeing collectors and coin lovers from different parts of the world sharing their passion in the comments. And while you're at it, have you ever come across a 1961 Eddie penny in your change or collection? Because if you have, it might be time to check it again carefully after hearing this story. The 1961 Eddie Lincoln penny might look like just another coin from the early años 60, but it has something special that sets certain examples apart. To understand why, we have to go back to the time it was made. The early 1960s were a booming period for the US Mint. The Denver Mint, marked by the small D under the date on the coin, was striking hundreds of millions of pennies to meet growing national demand. In fact, over 1.75 billion 1961 Eddie pennies were produced that year, an enormous number. But when you're making that many coins, even the smallest imperfection in the minting process can turn into a valuable mistake. The design of the 1961 Eddie Lincoln penny is classic and timeless. On the obverse side, we have the right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. His image had already been on the penny for over 50 years by that point. Above Lincoln's head reads "In God We Trust," with liberty to his left and the date 1961 to his right. Just below that date, you see the tiny D, showing it was minted in Denver. On the reverse side, designed by Frank Gasparro, you'll see the iconic Lincoln Memorial framed by the inscriptions United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and 1 cent. Now it is where things get really interesting. Among all those billions of 1961 Eddie pennies, a few came out with striking minting errors, imperfections so rare that collectors now hunt for them with incredible dedication. These mistakes were never meant to exist, but they slipped through the quality checks and entered circulation, making them hidden treasures in plain sight. One of the most famous error types for the 1961 Eddie penny is the double die obverse. This happens when the coin die receives a second impression that's slightly offset from the first. As a result, parts of the design, especially the lettering or the date, appear doubled. If you look closely at some 1961 at the error pennies, you can see noticeable doubling on the words Liberty, In God We Trust, or even on the numbers and the date. It's subtle but distinct, and for collectors, it's pure gold. Another error that makes certain 1961 AD pennies so valuable is the repunched mint mark, often called an RPM. Back in the 1960s, mint marks were punched into the dies by hand. These meant that sometimes the worker accidentally stamped the die slightly off and then had to repunch it in the correct spot. That process left behind tiny traces of the first die underneath or beside the main one. These repunched mint marks vary in appearance, some show clear doubling, others appear shadowed or slightly tilted. The more dramatic and visible the error, the higher the coin's value, and that's not all. There are also off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press, leaving part of the design cut off. And then there are die cracks and cuts, which happen when the die itself is damaged or worn. These errors result in raised lines or blobs of extra metal on the coin's surface, which collectors find especially fascinating because no two are exactly alike. Imagine finding one of these by accident. You might have a coin that's been sitting in a jar for decades, passed through generations, without anyone realizing it's a rare minting mistake worth thousands. That's why checking old pennies is such an exciting part of coin collecting. You never know what you might find. Now, condition plays a huge role too. Most 1961 AD pennies you find are worn from circulation, scratched, faded, and dull. But if you find one that's been preserved in near-perfect shape, known as mint state, the value skyrockets. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, and a 1961 AD penny graded MS a 65 or higher is already worth far more than face value. Combine that with a clear minting error, and you've got something truly special. A brilliant red example, that's a coin that still has its full copper shine, is the most desirable. Over time, copper naturally darkens to a brownish tone, but those bright red coins are like time capsules, showing exactly how pennies looked fresh from the mint over 60 years ago. Collectors pay premium prices for them, especially when they come with unique mint errors. Let's make this a bit interactive. Where are you watching from? Are you in the United States, or maybe somewhere else where American coins occasionally turn up in circulation? And do you have any older pennies from the 1960s or earlier? Because if you do, especially one from 1961 with a little the mint mark, you might be holding something extraordinary. To put it into perspective, one rare 1961 AD penny with a dramatic repunched mint mark and perfect mint red luster once sold for over $12,000. Another coin from the same year, featuring a strong double die obverse and high-grade preservation, crossed the $50,000 mark. And that's not even the highest number. The rarest, most pristine examples, verified by professional grading services with unique visible errors and flawless condition, have been valued at an astonishing $128,000. Yes, that's $128,000 for a coin most people wouldn't think twice about. It's hard to believe that a tiny 1-cent piece could carry such incredible worth, but that's what makes coin collecting so fascinating. The 1961 AD penny also represents an important era in minting history. This was one of the last years before major updates in the minting process took effect, which made errors far less common in later decades. That's part of why coins from the late 1950s and early 1960s are especially popular among collectors. They combine vintage craftsmanship with the possibility of rare imperfections. Every detail tells a story: the crispness of Lincoln's profile, the sharpness of the letters, even the tiny D punched below the date. Together, these little details create a fingerprint that makes each coin unique. The more perfect and unusual the fingerprint, the more desirable the coin becomes. So the next time you come across a 1961 AD penny, don't just toss it aside or spend it without a second thought. Look at it closely under a good light. Check for doubling in the letters or numbers. Examine the mint mark carefully, it might be slightly doubled or shifted. Notice the edges, the color, and even tiny cracks or raised metal areas. Because if you spot one of these details, you could be looking at a coin that's worth more than you ever expect. And it is the fun part: collecting coins like this don't require expensive tools or insider access. All you need is curiosity, paciencia, and a good eye. It's a hobby that combines art, history, and treasure hunting all in one. Every coin has a story, and the 1961 AD error penny tells a story of imperfection turned into incredible value. So take a moment to go through your coin jars, old wallets, or family collections. That shiny little penny from decades ago might be something truly special. And if you find one with a repunched mint mark, dabbling, or off-center design, get it checked. It might just change your life. Now, after everything we've talked about, it is the part you've been waiting for. Among all the 1961 AD pennies ever minted, the rarest error examples in pristine, mint state condition have been valued at an incredible $128,000. That's right, $128,000 for a 1-cent coin that you could easily mistake for an ordinary penny. So tell me, where are you watching from, and have you ever found a 1961 AD penny? Check your collections, because your next big discovery could be sitting right there in your own home. Sometimes, the smallest coin holds the biggest surprise.